So I'm going to host this one. So I'm Siobhan Williams. I'm based here at South East Water. My role here is of collections manager. So the data sharing that we've done with Maidstone Borough Council and KCC, I've been a big part of with Andy and Jane. So we want to talk about the changing landscape of data sharing. So the first question I'd like to talk about is what data source could we potentially reuse? So as part of our data sharing that can everyone hear me okay? Yep, good, that's good. So the Jamboard, it's new to me. I'm not sure, I haven't used it before, but we're gonna take some notes down. But what I'd like to do is start the discussions between us of saying what data source could we potentially be used to help us. Anyone want to kick off?
I'll kick off, shall I? There's a lot of benefit information, and those that are on low incomes, financially vulnerable. So there is a lot of information that perhaps the local authority and DWP hold, as well as housing associations.
Yep. And that's been a big part of what we've done here with working with KCC is using that information from DWP into the councils. And that's been a big source of us reaching out to customers we wouldn't have known about. Mm-hmm. So is any other data sources, do you think, other than the DWP data?
Hi, it's Olivia from
Hi, Liv.
Water.
Hi, Olivia.
Hi, we're sharing data with UKPN and London Fire Brigade as a way of delivering priority services.
Yep.
So we don't share financial data, but we are sharing PSR data.
Okay. Do you use that then in incidents when there's an incident?
So we can use it proactively to make sure we're inclusive with their communication needs. But yes, we're using it in the incident as well.
That's perfect. Okay, so that's a good one. Fire Brigade, like that.
I think local authority generally, because not all of our data is DWP data, and I know the county councils, they have data on people that have to have free bus passes because of their low income. So I think it's worth using some of that information. You could use some of that information as well, and those that have free school meals. So yeah, there's a wealth of information there.
Yeah, really good ideas. Any other suggestions when we could use it? Where we can get it from?
Yeah, I've got my hand up, but I don't know if it.
Oh yeah, you have. Sorry, I can see it now.
It's hidden above my cat, I think.
It looks like a piece of the furniture.
Yeah, well, why don't we all have a hand in our houses? So I work for CCW, that's the consumer regulatory body that looks with the water industry. And we've got some really exciting discussions going on at the moment. Obviously, we're working with the DWP, and we've got 8 companies that are signed up to share the data with them, and that's going really well. It's focusing at the moment on WaterSure and also on those on pension credit, because they're specific eligibility criteria, but it's proving successful in not only reducing the administration burden for companies, because it obviously does the checking of legitimacy of data, but also to highlight those people that the companies aren't aware of that are getting support. So similar to what you've seen with local authorities, we're obviously finding that with the DWP. And we're also in discussions from a PSR side, but we know quite often that people that need priority services may also have experience with income as well, and have difficulties with paying. So the work we're doing with the Department of Health and Social Care is part of the I guess planning and preparing and responding to emergencies, and the review that's happening at government level with regards to that. And this is really looking at the moment, the stage that we're at is to really be able to say, what is it ideally we would want and ideally at what stage, and how will that be used. So we're going to have a working group moving forward on that with a paper that will be going as a recommendation at the end of March next year. So this has come on really quickly, and has really fantastic support from the people on the government team that are looking for this. I think they recognised in the pandemic the difficulties that were faced with water companies in being able to provide support to people, particularly those who were told to shield, because they didn't know who those people were at the water companies, because that data wasn't shared. And I think this kind of touches on from discussions that we have with other regulators, that, you know, we're finding more and more from research and speaking to the people that need support, that there's lots of different barriers, as we all know, with emotional and actual physical barriers, but quite often relying on people to self-identify that they need this support isn't proving that effective, because we're very British and we always think there's people in a worse situation than me, and it stops them coming forward because they actually feel as though it wouldn't be for them because somebody would need it more, and actually it's exactly for them. So sharing lots of the successful studies, case studies of people that have got it, is really helpful for people to see that actually it can benefit them. So, you know, we're looking at that. I'm obviously aware of Thames Water and the fire service, and we've seen other companies start to look about the free school meals, the bus passes, and also people claiming blue badge holders as well. So there's lots of, I think, like they said, it's not just the DWP, there's lots of things that local authorities as well as other organisations can share too, but we very much support it because we know that awareness is woefully low, and actually people coming forward to go onto the schemes, as you've seen, the numbers on the registers, and actually those receiving financial support is low when just relying on self-identification itself.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there on a lot of points. The very British thing about us not raising our hand, or our customers not raising their hand, you know, we say we want to help a lot more customers, but we just don't know who they are. Yeah. And do you think COVID restrictions has had an impact on people maybe come forward a little bit more, maybe not showing their vulnerability a lot more?
We saw a lot at the start of those people. The stigma was reduced because it was felt as though a lot of more people were in it, that everyone was almost in a similar situation, so it reversed it. And we actually saw when people started going back from furlough and they went into different industries, that there was that tailing off again of people that were still affected, that actually felt worse for the situation, because for a while they felt as though they were part of a bigger problem, and therefore they felt as though they were able to come forward, that there wasn't that stigma, it was very open. And then as things started to progressively change for lots of people, those that remained affected had very, very different experiences, because they thought, again, would that support be there for them, because everybody else seems to have got back to normal and they were left still struggling. So it was really interesting. But I think the positive has definitely been the fact that the government has practically been able to see the impact of people needing support and actually not getting support. And I think we've got much more evidence to take these projects forward, because they can actually see the impacts. And I think the shielding data was the prime one that really was that tipping point, and the fact that they said, yeah, actually you do need to be able to plan. It's not enough to give the information just at the emergencies, you've got to be able to plan, to prioritise, and I think we're seeing much more open discussions at government level about that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Olivia, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think just on that note as well, we feel that customers are more receptive or more familiar now with welfare decisions being made on their behalf. There's not so much of an objection, and it makes them feel more secure because some flags and some data is being shared, and it's becoming more normal.
Agreed. It's that vulnerability stigma has gone. We feel, you know, a lot of people were happy for us to discuss with other people, you know, a certain condition they might have, or that, you know, it's the privacy bit has gone a little bit away from people being embarrassed by it. So it's not a bad thing. Have we got any more ideas about how we can share data source, or where that source can come from? Anything else anyone's got before we move on to the next question?
Me again, and I think we've
That's okay.
touched on it, but I think it's just important to have it as maybe as a separate tile, and that is that local authority data for
Yes.
that proactive and in an emergency support. I totally acknowledge that that data isn't in one place, but I think that is a really important frontline service that is trusted, that we should be working really closely with.
Yeah. And I definitely think it's more for us. What I'd be really keen, and I know we are working with, is the energy market. You know, if once we get that cross share of knowledge and about our the same customers, it comes from, you know, we've got financial customers with financial problems, customers with the energy problems. If customer got a problem with us, they'll have a problem with everybody else. So it's just getting that's other utilities, yeah, across, I do think. Okay, we'll move on to anything else.
I was just going to say on a different tact, and we're not actually using it ourselves, but there are a lot of organisations out there that are now using kind of open banking data.
Yes.
So slightly different, but it's still data that's being shared with utilities, I guess.
Yes, our DCAs are using that. That's definitely, we can see them using open banking to see, yeah, to see where people's accounts and what conditions are in.
Well, yeah, but also for like benefits levels data,
Yes.
to see if someone's in receipt of benefits. I think that could be really useful to help with kind of water shore renewals, for example. You know, if you could see someone was in receipt of child benefit and income related benefits, you could renew them without them having to send the proof in, things like that.
Yeah, you could automatically renew them. Yeah, it's a good idea. Any other ones, final ones, before we move on to the next question?
I think the data that you already get from credit reference agencies is invaluable to be able to look for people who potentially are going to need that support. So they may not be struggling with water, but you can see the impact on other areas. And that allows you to help to target, I guess, the people that you could approach for the support.
Yeah, you think the support tariff, you know, we got supports ones that are potentially 50% off your bill. If we could reach out to more customers that we were aware of, would be yeah, we'd be really happy with that. Okay, we'll move on to question number 2, just before we're only in here till 3:35. So how can we work together to move this forward? Anyone want to come up with?
I think it's talking to the right people at the right level, people that can make those decisions, yeah, and trying to get to those people that can make those decisions, and probably with a lot of people you talk to, they think it's a good idea, but they haven't got the authority, and I think that's pitching it at the right, the right people.
Yeah, and there's lots of red tape always, isn't there? You know, of once we get something, we know it's in the right place. We
Especially
then got
local government. Yeah, very much so.
We know even when we've been sharing data sharing with KCC and Maidstone Borough Council, we've had to make sure we had all our agreements in place and everything before we then went ahead. Like everything, we've got to make sure it's right. But it took us a while to get them. Now we're across the line. Is then how do we then share that with others to say what we done? You know, it's been successful. Anyone else then? How can we work together? What is it that we can do to offer?
I think one thing I'm really feeling in my role as a partnership lead at Thames Water is it's a bit like the point you make, Sheila. It's talking to the right person. It's being given permission to take that risk, dare to share. But I think in doing that, as we're all nibbling at the edges of it, I think it's sharing that those case studies, showing that groundswell, so it gives others permission to say, let's do it. It's an innovative space, and it just takes a few to show the way, and then more come on board. So I don't know if that was an answer or
yeah, absolutely
brain dump.
But it is, it's that, you know, one company stepping above the other to saying, I've done something and it's worked, and here's how I've done it, and share that across.
Yeah, learn from this. Ask me anything you want, take it. Best practice, all of those well-coined phrases. It's really good.
Lou's not got a virtual hand up, but she's got a real hand up.
Sorry. Technology is not my forte. I just wanted to say, in this short space that we've just been talking, I've gone from being a bit apprehensive about sharing data to quite sort of realizing that it's really necessary. When we first started, my background is not corporate. It's nothing like yours. I have been the patient that's been ill, terminally ill for a very long, not terminally, sorry, chronically ill for such a long time, with so many different things from the age of 15. And I have been in receipt of benefits. I have been in receipt of the things that you need in order to stay alive until you get better, and you can then go back on to supporting yourself. Back then, I was in such a point where you're concentrating on just making it one day at a time, and not concentrating on all the other things that to be able to have the energy to look up and to look for the benefits that are there for you, or to look for the other things, because you're just concentrating on getting out of bed. And at first, when Sheila, I believe it was Sheila from Maidstone Council said about, and I asked the question, did you get permission from the customers before you shared the information? And she said no. And I was a bit sort of thinking, oh, well, is that disrespectful? Is that in any way, kind of not treating the customer with the respect they deserve? And I've now just thinking about all this, and I just think, yes, it is a fantastic thing to be able to just, especially me at that point where I was at my lowest, and with health and everything else, and depression comes into it as well when you're so ill, when you lose your job and you can't work and you can't do anything, and everybody's out there having a great time and you're stuck indoors or in a hospital bed. Having had all these things come through automatically would have been such a relief and such a weight off, but I didn't have that then. But especially for my patients now, with the patients that we have under the Kent Kidney Patients Association, to be able to just sit back and concentrate on getting better and have all these things come in, it's going to be a godsend. So I've completely just done a 180 from the start of this whole thing that we just started at 1:30 to now, and it's just an eye-opener. So I'm just saying that it's if you manage to convince me, I think if you ever need a spokesperson to why it's needed, do let me know, because from a recipient of benefits and things like that, I don't think when we're that ill, we really want things to come through without us having to fill out another form or having to think, what is it? Or being too proud to say, I don't understand it. So I'm just going to say, no, thank you. I don't want it. So anyway, sorry, I just needed to say that.
Not at all. That's to hear it from your side. I mean, we sit in our corporate, boxes over here, and we're trying to figure out what's best for our customers. But to hear it from your side, that's we don't often get to hear that from our customers. So I really appreciate your feedback there. But it's, little love went out there from Olivia. Definitely did. But and your offer of being a spokesperson and support, I think we'd gladly take you up on that. Definitely. It's then of going, how else do we pull that together? To how do we reach people like Lou out there in each of our areas? And that's the important part. How do we work together to get to that result, that we're making sure we don't leave anyone behind, that we get, as many customers on board on our support tariff as possible? Any last comments? I think we've got 1 minute left. Any other further comments? Yeah, absolutely, Lou. Thank you. Katie's just saying thank you. So yeah, appreciate from all of us here today that we appreciate that. Any final parting? I think we're going to go back in and present back our findings now, or our discussion points across to the other team as well. So it's been nice getting to know you all, and we'll see you back on. Can we switch back over now? I think we can.
Yeah, that's great. So I will put a link in the chat, everyone. But this is the link so that you can then go back into the main room, which is where we'll continue with the discussion. But if you just click that link there, and then when you actually go to the landing page, just click that main stage and we'll see you back in that room there.
Right, see you all on the other side.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.